Peter?
Yes.
Hi. Give me 2 minutes. We'll be right on the air.
Great.
Thank you.
At the surface level, systems were not ready to respond to a global pandemic, and the reporting of data has continuously evolved over the last several months. We want to be clear on address misconceptions regarding this situation. Community Health Center says all results, both positive and negative, have been reported daily to the Iowa Department of Public Health. Community Health Center says that they want to follow guidance from the state regarding the reporting of data. Due to the high volume of test results being reported, the system at the state level was overwhelmed. Community Health Center Report 9 says they submitted positive tests directly into the Iowa Department of Public Health system to support immediate contact tracing. Community Health Center concluded the statement saying, quote, "We are proud of the COVID-19 testing we have conducted in our community and the many other ways we serve Fort Dodge and the surrounding areas." KVFD from the Jerry Cheater Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Thank you, Rob Jones. Dr. Peter Fisher at the University of Iowa will be with us in a few minutes. Talk about TIF, of course. First of all, on the weather, it's 85 degrees right now, just a perfect day. We usually have these days in June, not in August, so I'm good with it, really. Sunny today with a high of 86, maybe 87. Overnight clear with a low of 61 on Friday. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 90. On Saturday, a chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 90. On Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 91. On Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 95. Yeah, that sounds more like August. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 92. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 91 degrees. Right now in town again, it's a gorgeous day. It's 85 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Well, I'm sure Dr. Peter Fisher has never been introduced before with 60 rounds of freedom, but there it is. How are you, Dr. Fisher?
I'm pretty good.
All right, you...
better than I was a few days ago.
Yeah. Were you sick? I'm sorry to hear it.
No, we were just on day 6 of not having any electricity or running water.
Oh, do you live in Iowa City or?
No, out in the country, so we kind of,
Okay.
The Cedar Rapids, we really got walloped.
Yeah, my son lives in Marion. He had a lot of problems. Well, the whole town of Cedar Rapids had a terrible problem, as we all know now. Finally, and at last, only in this part of the state, of course, Des Moines media didn't cover Cedar Rapids very much, like it doesn't exist. Anyway, Dr. Peter Fisher is a recognized expert in TIF. How long have you been talking about TIF, Dr. Fisher?
Oh, longer than I care to remember.
Well, we had a TIF project here recently. And if we don't talk about it on this radio station, if we don't fully explore what the city council's decision is, we'll never know. We never know these things. I am, of course, a doctor as well as you are. I'm the doctor of truth. So could you tell us, please, briefly, the history of TIF, what it's been intended for, how it's been used, and if TIF has been redefined?
Yes, I will try to do that as succinctly as I can. Yeah, it's out of the urban renewal era, in the 1950s, and the original idea was to provide some kind of bootstraps financing for blighted areas in cities. So you put some public investment there, you turn things around, and you finance it by scooping off the taxes on the growth in value after your project succeeds, taking them from the county or the school district, whoever, for a while till you get paid back for your investment. And then everybody's happy because the area redevelops, tax base grows, tax revenue goes back to the schools in the county, they get more money than they would have, and your project succeeded in ending urban blight. That's the original idea, and that's what it was supposed to be in Iowa when it was adopted sometime in the 60s, I think.
When did it change? Did it change by a legislative act or a federal act, or?
It changed in Iowa over the years, it just got looser and looser, and then we decided it didn't have to be a blighted area, it didn't have to be urban redevelopment. All it had to be was for economic development. And as we know, if you want some taxpayer money, it's pretty easy to say what you're going to do is economic development. That's not a hard number.
No.
A hard concept. So that pretty much opened the door to anybody who was going to do any kind of investment project or, city building, community centers and soccer fields and sewer plants and stuff that used to be the city's responsibility, and now they find they can use TIF and push some of the tax costs onto other people.
Or just in the case of water here in Fort Dodge, we have an outside company running the whole thing. But that's actually worked out all right for us. Hey, here's a project that we have going, and it hasn't been implemented yet, but it will be shortly. We have an area known as the Country Club area here in Fort Dodge, and you've been around Iowa long enough to know that if a town of 25,000 or less has a country club area, there's pretty nice homes up there, and our town is no exception. Well, they also have a country club golf course out there that a lot of people on our economic development team here in town seem to believe that we need as a way to attract young professionals to our town for future growth. So I've kind of named it the Save the Golf Course Fund. But what it is essentially is a area has been designated as a TIF area, and houses will be built there using TIF that start at $250,000 and could go a lot more than that. I was a little surprised when I heard that, because in past conversations with you, you've told me exactly what you just mentioned, that TIF was originally intended for blighted areas. That was a big word whenever we mentioned TIF. But around our town and around our state and really around the country, there doesn't seem to be any rules anymore as far as TIF is concerned. Is that the truth or not?
No, and especially in Iowa, there aren't any rules. There are states still the urban redevelopment idea, but it doesn't surprise me that we're getting this golf course development in the name of economic development.
Well, the golf course itself has not been mentioned as a redevelopment project, but there are those in town who are very concerned that if we don't do this TIF project, as a matter of fact, one of the leading members of a group out of the country club area said publicly at a city council meeting, if we don't get this development, the country club will close. That's not a quote. That's not verbatim, but essentially that's it. If we don't get this development out here, we're not gonna have a country club out there. It's a nice golf course, by the way. We'll still have the country club. We just don't have the golf course. So the question becomes then, who are the developers and how and who will make money? Well, nobody seems to want to tell us as of yet. So
we're subsidizing rich people's houses in order to save their country club?
Just the golf course. Just the golf course. But I'm sure that the country club building itself is part of the whole plan.
So the city doesn't own the golf course. It's a private golf course?
I believe so, yeah. Well, maybe it's a city course now. I can't answer that question accurately. I'm sorry. It was private for many, many years. But I read a marketing study 15 years ago that told us that young professionals in the past 50s, 60s, and 70s, if you wanted to recruit a professional man to town, you had to assure that man that there was a good golf course in your town, and that the dues at the country club for him and his wife would be paid either by the country club or by the city or whoever. Times change. Now we're looking at two professional. If we're looking at a couple, we're looking at two professional people. So we don't have to worry about the PTA group so much for the wife. We have to make sure that she has something to do in our little town. Well, the point of the marketing study told us that the idea of golf clubs and country clubs was kind of passé. And what they really wanted, what these young professionals wanted, that I guess we're trying to recruit, was a first-class recreation center with first-class exercise equipment, all these sorts of things. So I don't know who they're saving the golf course for, because golf isn't going to die in Fort Dodge or anything like that. But I don't see it as a recruiting tool. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to, in the name of economic development. I've had a couple of local economic development people over here, and they're honest people. And I know, and they've told me on air that what they believe they're doing is best for the city and is lawful. They believe it's best for the city because there's no tax base coming in from this particular piece of property right now. And if we build out there and use TIF, we'll have even more tax money coming, much more of a tax base.
So how does the TIF help the houses get built? I mean, he's saying they aren't going to get built without TIF. What are we doing with the TIF money? Are we giving them rebates on their property taxes for 20 years?
I kind of doubt that. No. I'm sure that the TIF is going toward the purchase of the property and to help with the development of the property. I don't think the homeowners, may get some sort of tax break on their property tax at first. I don't know about that, by the way. But what we need TIF for, apparently, is because no developer really wants to take this project on using their own money or any of those things. And again, we have no idea who the developer is. We have no idea who the developer is yet, but we just agreed to a TIF project.
Yeah, see, when it comes to things like that, I'm kind of an old-fashioned believer in the market. And if this is a good idea, the developer can take his idea to the bank and he can get financing, and free market's working. It turns out people are willing to pay enough for the houses there when it gets all done to cover the developer's costs, and who can complain about that? So I don't know why the city needs to step in to make something happen that the free market says can't happen. And if the free market says, well, sure, this could happen, then what are we doing? We're just helping to increase the developer's profit.
That's exactly what we're doing. A few people are going to make a lot of money. I mean, they're going to buy this piece of property and then they're going to whack it up into lots. I don't know. They'll buy it for $25,000 an acre or whatever, and then they'll sell the lots for between $1,500 and $2,000. And by the time and then every time one of the homes is abandoned or something, not abandoned, but somebody moves, they'll sell it again, over and over and over again. So yeah, this is. I'm like you. I'm a believer in the free market. You see, but this is Iowa, Peter, and I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble over the years with farmers, and I have no disrespect for farmers at all. But I've told them time and time again, most of the land owned in Iowa, if not all of the farmland in Iowa, is generational, and that the federal and state government saved the farm for dad and grandpa and great-grandpa through socialism, flat-out socialism. Federal farm programs are socialism. There's no way. A lot of them get mad about that, but they can't dispute it. So what we tell the working people in the state of Iowa is socialism for me. I'm a farmer. I'm a big landowner. I'm a developer. I'm this. I'm that. Socialism for me, and you go to work for $12 an hour. Are you sure that's free market? It sounds feudal. It sounds like we're sending the peasants out in the field to work for sustenance. I guess it really does.
I wouldn't argue with you there. I agree. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That's kind of what the system we have. The thing is here, if there is some, and if you're doing TIF, you're taking some money from the county, from the school district, and when this property increases in value, and you're diverting it to this project. So I don't know how they explain that to the county and the school districts as to why they're not going to get all the revenue from these fancy homes that they would otherwise. They're probably going to say, well, without the TIF, you wouldn't have any homes there at all.
That's pretty much what they're saying. Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Peter Fisher is our guest. He is an economist emeritus at University of Iowa. Just explain, if you would, the Van Mauer fiasco down in Iowa City and why Van Mauer moved from Iowa City to Coralville.
Well, Coralville, which is kind of the poster child for pushing the envelope on TIF and being polite there. They used TIF to build Von Mauer's store and guarantee them they'd never pay more than $500,000 a year in property taxes forever, and induce them away from Iowa City, that's down the road, into moving to Coralville, where they got a nice view of the interstate. The interstate has a nice view of them, I should say. So that, as a result of that, we have this law that says you can't use TIF to poach development projects from somewhere else.
Is that what happened after the Van Mauer episode?
It is, yeah.
Didn't they want Van Mauer there so they could build Clear Creek School? I've been to Clear Creek School. It's really nice, but I don't know if that's the way you're supposed to build a school.
No, I don't either. I mean, what ended up happening, in 2 minutes, I can't explain how, but Iowa City school district taxpayers helped subsidize the move to Coralville, which then helped the Clear Creek School District.
Yeah, I know.
That's not the only time that's happened. One of the taxpayers helping build the tax base in a different city or a different school district.
So some poor slob is getting paid $15 an hour, and 12 to 15% of his taxes is income tax. And some of that tax winds up helping with the development like this. And then the developers will turn around and say, this is what your labor is worth, $12 to $15. Free market capitalism. I love it. Anyway, Dr. Peter Fisher, I want to thank you for appearing on such short notice. When we started talking about this TIF, I thought about you, of course. You're the first person to mention the word to me, TIF, I think, or the acronym or whatever it is. But Dr. Fisher, thank you very much.
Glad to do it, Mike.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. That's right. We're making radio great again. The obituary and the weather is coming up. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine with the weather. It's 85 degrees right now. Going to be sunny this afternoon. High maybe 87 overnight. A chance of showers, mostly clear with a low of 62. On Saturday, a chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 90. On Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 90. Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 91. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 94. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 93. So it's going to be August. As we head into the second thing is this? Gosh, this is the 20th. Next week's the last week of August. How did that happen? It's 2:56. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Nan Brown has passed away, the wife of well-known sports writer Bob Brown. Nan Brown's funeral was this morning at 10:30 at First Presbyterian Church. Paul Stevenson has passed away. Paul was a good guy, knew him a long time. Services for Paul Stevenson are pending, and services are being handled at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Mm. That's the way I see it. I'll stick up for you and nobody else will, like this TIF thing. I mean, you would have never found out about it. And maybe you didn't want to find out about it. And maybe you're mad at me for talking about it. But this affects our city. Yeah, there's probably people that don't want you to talk about it much. But that's my job. That's my job. Sam Clovis in the next hour. Mayor Matt Bemrick at 4 o'clock. Representative Ann Meyer at 4:30. So we got a great afternoon of talk radio for you. And thank you for listening to KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa. That's right. We have 60 rounds of freedom at all time here. We feel very strongly about freedom, and joining me in that regard is Sam Clovis. How are you, Sam?
Doing great, Mike. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good myself. It's a gorgeous day here in Fort Dodge. You're around Sioux City. I don't know how the weather is over there, but I'll tell you, around here it's pretty nice.
Well, I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and yeah, it's beautiful here as well. I haven't been outside since February, so I don't really know. But I'm in my beautiful hospital room, a one-person room, and my door is closed, so it is as quiet as can be, and we're doing well.
Well, I'm sorry to hear you're back in the hospital. I know you've been struggling with health problems for quite some time. Are you getting out soon?
No, I've been in the hospital since April of 2019.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I've not been out of the hospital since April of last year, and so no, I'm actually recovering. I'm doing well. I have physical rehab that is going very well. I had a little downturn in just the body saying it's time. I was doing so well in therapy that the body said that's it. So I had to take about I had a pretty good day today. I'm back to about, I'd say 60% of where I was when I was going full places a week ago today. And then tomorrow will be a better day, and then Monday will be even better. So yeah, I'm getting much better. My general physical health is probably as good as it's been for quite some time, and the ability to move my limbs and everything is coming along. I've always had the use of my arms, but in the last 3 months, I've been able to regain some movement in my feet and legs, my lower abdomen. I have feeling now through my whole body, which is that when you're paraplegic, you don't have any feeling from your breast down, and so I've gotten feeling back in all of those areas now. So that's the general health update.
Well, what's the problem, Sam? I didn't know you were paraplegic. I didn't know you were in the hospital all this time. What happened to you to put you in the hospital? Sam Globus. Uh-oh. We lost him already. Well, I hope he can call right back. This is AM 1400 KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I do have an announcement here. A 2-vehicle crash last night in Wright County has resulted in a fatality. According to the Iowa State Patrol, 56-year-old Michelle Grambrell of Clarion, was riding a motorcycle on Highway 3 near 10th Street Southeast in Wright County when the accident occurred. The accident report says that a 40-year-old Clarion resident, Curtis James, was driving an SUV when he turned the vehicle and it collided with a motorcycle. Michelle Grambler. Well, for God's sake, what's going on there? That's probably Sam Clovis. Gambrel died as a result of the accident. Michelle Grambrell. I'm sorry I'm really trying to pronounce Miss Gambrell's name correctly. It's Gambrill. And of course, we wish every sympathy to the Gambrell family. Sam Clovis, is that you? We got a little problem here with the phone today.
Well, I don't know if it's on your end or my end. I just I was talking, and all of a sudden you couldn't hear me. So what I was saying is, to get back to the health issue, I had a series of infections dating back to October of 2018. Now, this is upper respiratory issues, and then finally, 2 days after Easter of 2019, I had to go to the emergency room in Sioux City. I was then put immediately into the ICU there, and from there, it was the fact that an infection had manifested itself on my spine, created an abscess that on June the 7th of 2019 had to be operated on to save my life. And
then from there, with that operation, damaged nerves, and I became a paraplegic. And so I thought you knew all this, Mike.
I did not. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry to hear of it.
And then from there, from June 7th until about, really until about April of this year, I had virtually no feeling from the chest down.
Oh my God.
And then the feeling, the movement came back in my toes and feet, and then in my shins and calves, and then finally up to my thighs, my buttocks, my back, my butt, all of the rest of my body started to come back alive, which is a miracle. And the miracle is due to the thousands of people who were praying for me and are praying for me that has allowed me to be able to regain some modicum of feeling throughout my entire body, because that is what was going on. I thought you were aware of that, Mike.
No, sir.
You didn't know.
Well, I'm sorry to hear of the health problems you've been having over a long period of time. Man, if they started in October 2018, that's almost 2 years already. My God, we're almost done with August.
2 years. Yeah,
wow. What are you, 71, 72?
70 years old.
70 years old. Okay. Well, you're too young for those sorts of problems. I see 70 over there in the horizon. That's why I can say that.
The alternative is better than being dead, and I was
certainly
that about 4 times during that process, and it was I've had a great sense of mortality and all of this, but the other part of it is it has galvanized my faith in God, and because I know that God has more for me to do, that is why I have been able to regain my health to the level that I have. The only thing I cannot do right now, Mike, is walk. That's it. Everything else about my life is coming back to normal, and the only thing I can't do is walk, and I have never once, not ever, climbed on the pity pot to say, well, woe is me, God has punished me. No, this is just one more challenge I have to overcome, and I've overcome so many in my life. This is just one more.
Well, I will make a reference to the Democratic Party convention. Wow, what a wine fest! But that's not a surprise. The Democratic Party has turned into a large gathering of social workers and their clients, and they're all mad at guys like you and I for something. I don't know whatever I did, but I will just touch on the Democratic Party convention. Hunter Biden, the son of the scalawag son of Joe Biden, who still holds a 10% stake in a Chinese firm. He'll speak tonight at the DNC convention. What are the Democrats and Joe Biden saying by putting this kind of notorious member of the Biden family out in front of the cameras like this? I mean, the guy slept with his sister-in-law. I mean, after his brother, Bo, who was much more talented, died, he apparently took advantage of his sister-in-law. He created a Navy career, then tested positive for coke and was immediately ejected. And usually in public, he looks like he just had a rough night, all that sort of thing. So I'm suspecting he just did have a rough night. So Hunter Biden has proved himself probably to be a likable man, but he's pretty much good for nothing. So why would he be out in front? I would think Biden would want to keep him back at the ranch.
Well, the thing is that Biden is supposed to speak tonight, and I think that that is the crux of the evening is that Hunter will probably introduce his father.
Yeah.
And then that'll be the idea. The other thing you have to know is the moment that Joe Biden, if he were elected, takes the oath of office, that the very next moment there will be a presidential pardon for Hunter Biden for all of the wrongdoing. will not be able to remain president.
That's what I think.
Then whoever comes behind him will then pardon him for any possible wrongdoing. But again, presidents don't need pardons, even past presidents. I also get into this whole issue of the Kleinsmith pleads for one count of doctoring evidence, which is a fairly serious felony. And at least prosecutorial misconduct, all of the other aspects of that. But for the listeners, this Kleinsmith guy was general counsel to the intelligence, counterintelligence branch of the FBI, of which Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and all the rest of these clowns were part of. So Kleinsmith got pleaded to one count of doctoring evidence. And I think to get to that level, that the Attorney General was probably able to extract an extraordinary amount of information from him about the food chain associated with the unmasking and the FISA warrants and all of the other court orders that were done under national security premises that led to the investigation associated with myself and Keith Kellogg and George Papadopoulos and Michael Flynn and all the rest of us who have been dragged through a knothole over all of this. So I think that is really, for me, the news of the day. The other is the Steve Bannon indictment. I have not looked or seen any of the particulars, but it sounds to me like that Bannon is being prosecuted for exactly the same thing that the Clintons did through the Clinton Foundation. So I'm wondering why there is an unequal application of justice here, and perhaps having it come out of New York as opposed to D.C. is probably the reason.
How did a creepy guy like Peter Strzok rise so high in the FBI? I mean, how did a man like him ever get? I mean, he would have never been in J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, or probably not a lot of the other directors of the FBI. He just wouldn't have. How does he come forward like this, as creepy as he is, and as smug and arrogant about everything as he still is, as if he did everything right, as if he...
James Comey. James Comey is the answer to that, because he is Peter Strzok on steroids, and James Comey is probably one of the most despicable human beings to ever be rise to the level he did as director of the FBI. The fact is that this whole branch or tree and branches off of it in the FBI, Rod Rosenstein, who was the deputy attorney general.
Right.
You know, all of those, that whole branch of the Department of Justice is one of the reasons that we are in the state we are, where we had a small group of people, and what this ought to scare everybody about, this is a small group of people who had complicit and support and cover for people in the administration, such as Susan Rice, Samantha Power, John Brennan, James Clapper, who they're enabled and wanted and solicited this corrupt behavior from the FBI.
John Brennan is, I've never seen a former CIA director like John Brennan. He's an open partisan. He has been complaining and barking about Trump since before Trump was elected president. And he still has access to confidential documents. That's disturbing to me.
Well, you know, he still has a security clearance.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I think he should be, you know, that I think that he ought to be taken, off of that, have that taken away. And I get all of that, but I think that what we're we're really faced with here is that you don't want to do that quite yet because that's never been done. And I think that we let it take the security clearances away. Now, over time, they no longer have a need to know, so that should be taken away. And I think it will be. If and when Trump gets reelected, you're going to see a lot of other things being done quietly behind the scenes that will be leaked. The people will leak them. And so then the press will have a heyday. It will always be something. Like President Trump and his administration will never be able to get out from under this. And I have personal experience with this, so I know what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you, I don't know if I can watch that convention tonight or not. If I hear one more story, one more up from the bottom story, despite this horrible system that we have here in the United States, and apparently all the racist people that live here have been holding everyone down because they're anti-gay or anti-this or anti-that. I'm astonished. You would think that they grew up in a goulash somewhere. This is the United States of America, and they wouldn't be in the positions they're in today if we didn't have the ability and desire to change.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, Oprah Winfrey is worth $2 billion.
Yeah.
And yet she is the one out there saying it must have been all of the white people who held her down. And you take away from all of the others, the African American, Hispanic American, Asian American. First of all, let's get rid of the hyphens. That's the first thing. And the other part of it is to sit out there. If you want to do what the idea of identity politics is a way to divide the country, not to unite the country. And that the whole process here, Mike, is right out of the Marxist playbook. Right out of the Communist Manifesto. I just finished reading it again, not 2 nights ago. I just finished it again. And I'm sitting there astounded at what we're doing here, and it is right out of their playbook.
Oh, yeah. I when Obama was president, I read Saul Alinsky because everybody said, well, Obama's an Alinsky guy. And I was struck by a passage in Alinsky's book that instructed his followers to pick a target, focus on a target, and relentlessly pound away at that target until the target is dust. And I thought that's what they're doing with Trump now. They have identified a target. They focused on the target obsessively, and they've just pounded away ever since. Everything under the sun is Trump's fault. No credit, no respect, no dignity is allowed, no common decency is allowed. If anybody has degraded our country, it's the people who have done this. And how
they don't care about it. They don't care about what you think or what I think.
And that's another thing. They have no respect for their neighbors. They have no respect for our faith. They have no respect for our traditional patriotism. They are nihilists, for God's sake. And they want to be in control of our lives. This is a desperate fight. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is the holy warrior or he's necessarily the warrior I would have picked, but you go with what you got.
He's my guy, and I've been with him almost from day one. And so, he's not everybody's guy, and I get that, but he's still the president of the United States.
That's right.
Well, he has done more to transform the government than just about anybody that I've ever been around. That's why I signed up with him. And I just got appointed to the Farmers and Ranchers Coalition for Trump. And immediately upon my appointment, the stories that were replowed or should rerun or retreaded with the old notion about what I went through in my failed appointment as an undersecretary at USDA. And the fact that I'm characterized, get this, as a radio talk show host.
Oh, no.
I know, but the fact that I have, 2 advanced degrees, that I have 25 years of service in the military, that I've served in, and I was a successful businessman, a college professor, and ran for office unsuccessfully. But none of those things are ever mentioned. Sam Clovis failed politician and radio talk shows. So it sounds like I'm a failed radio talk show host. Well, as you know, Mike, I had the highest rated program in the history of the market where I was. And so, all of this kind of stuff it comes out. And now we find I didn't know this and find out that I would have been there, that Senators Burr and Warner from the Senate Intelligence Committee had requested the FBI, hadn't been referred, but requested a criminal inquiry into my testimony concerning George Papadopoulos and I forget somebody else, but it was some guy I don't remember, but it was fascinating that, and I was never asked, never questioned about anything. I thought it was news to me, but it was in the Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post, and it was done in the Washington Post. So to do what? To poison the well. The fact that I was part of this team. Oh, by the way, they brought this guy in who was part of the Russia probe and also had been a criminal inquiry or a request for criminal inquiry. But there was none. I talked to the Attorney General. There was none. And so it was all made up. And so this is the crap that we have to put up with.
Sam Clovis is our guest. Sam, give us a call back in about 10 minutes, will you?
I sure shall.
Thank you, sir. Sam Clovis will be back. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. .334, the news is coming up. I wonder what a group called Americans for Tax Reform is doing barking about health care for all. What do you think? Americans for Tax Reform. Listen, don't give me that, Americans for Tax Reform. You believe in socialism. You believe it for you. You believe in bailouts for you. You believe in aid for you. You believe in everything. So you can turn around and say, you guys aren't worth anything. And that's free market capitalism. Listen to Michael Bloomberg sometime. What a fine man he is. There was a 2-vehicle accident Wednesday night in Wright County. There was a 2-vehicle accident last night in Wright County. A 2-vehicle crash last night in Wright County resulted in a fatality. According to the Iowa State Patrol, 56-year-old Michelle Gambrell of Clarion was riding a motorcycle on Highway 3 near 10th Street Southeast in Wright County when the accident occurred. The accident report says that 40-year-old Clarion resident Curtis James was driving an SUV when he turned the vehicle and it collided with the motorcycle. Michelle Gambrell died as a result of the accident. So that's unfortunately what happened in Webster County. Not Webster County, but Wright County last night. And, of course, our sympathy goes out to the family of Michelle Gambrell. We're waiting for Sam Clovis here at AM 1400 KVFD. And we'll see if he calls here in a minute. I didn't realize that he'd been in the hospital since, for God's sake, last year. And that's never any good for you, especially for an active man like Sam Clovis. If you're an active man, you have an active mind. And Sam's always running. That brain of his is always running. So I wish him well, and I wish him a recovery. I hope that happens. In the meantime, yeah, we'll just sit here and wait. We won't say anything or anything. We'll just wait. At 4 o'clock or 4:10 this afternoon, we'll have Mayor Matt Bemrick, and then at probably 4:35, we'll have Representative Ant Meyer. And next Thursday, we'll have Charles Clayton, who is running for State House. His opponent is Representative Ant Meyer. I think he's got a pretty big hill to climb. But we will talk with Charles next week. I kind of lost it yesterday visiting Charles Clayton's Facebook page to see that he had made a mention of God, that God was not in our homes, not in our schools, and not in our business, in being forced from the city square by really anti-religious people. There was an outpouring, I would say, of sentiment from Democrats, and some of them are just, some of these people I've known, they're professional social media types, and they're professionally angry, and they're full of rage all the time. So, yeah, they really upbraided Charles for even talking about God in public schools. Oh my God, how can you run as a Democrat? No Democrat runs on God in the public schools. It's heresy to the liberal mind. I'm going to try to go to the phone here. Now doggone it. Something's wrong with my phone again. See, I know that's Sam Clovis trying to call in. And do you think I can get it done? No. This is a fine thing. You've gotten me into. Who used to say that? It was some old movie villain. I mean, like from the 1930s. Another fine thing that you've gotten me into. Problem with small town radio stations is that radio equipment costs so much and we can't afford it. That's pretty much the truth. Yeah. I see Sam. I'm going to have to talk with Sam on my cell phone here. This is insane. You're not going to. Hi,
I'm
Sam.
sorry.
That's all right.
I was having trouble getting the line, and then I couldn't get through to you, so I don't know what was going on here. I'm sorry.
I don't know what's going on either, Sam. But if you want to try the 955-1400 number one more time, do that, please. If not, we'll just talk to you on the cell phone.
Okay, I'll call you right back.
Thank you. Sam has got some great ideas. He's his knowledge of Western civilization is amazing. This is AM 1400 KBFD, the voice for Dodge. Is this Sam?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God! Yeah, one of our, we have a competitive state race for our state representative in this district. Representative Ann Meyer is a freshman representative, and she's a Republican and done an outstanding job for us in Des Moines. And she's a great person. She's a nurse. Her husband's a physician. Her opponent is a black man by the name of Charles Clayton, who is very well known in our town. I respect Charles greatly. He has started a place called Athletics for Education and Success, where he tries to help young people get on the right path and stay in the right path, which is admirable, by the way. I believe he has a master's degree, and a black man with a master's degree, as you know, can go just about anywhere he wants to. But he stayed in his hometown where he was a stud basketball player, and he's tried to do his best for an underserved population. All those admirable things. Well, yesterday on Charles's Facebook page, he made mention of, he posted a meme that said something to the effect of, the problem is in our society, we don't have God in our homes or God in our schools. Well, some self-described Democrats landed on him. How can you take a position like that and be a Democrat? I mean, this is the way these people think. You can't believe in God. You can't advocate for the wisdom of Christianity or Judaism. You cannot advocate for the wisdom that are in those faiths, the deep, deep faith. And by the way, Sam, we're a town of 25,000. We have 6 Lutheran churches, 6. A big and active Catholic congregation. I think we have 2 Methodist churches here. We have a lot of churches. We have, a couple of Baptist churches. The Second Baptist Church is a very active, mostly African-American group. And they're inspiring, and they're inspired by their faith. And we have people who tell us they're in the Democratic Party, criticizing a man for talking about God and advocating for more wisdom, spiritual wisdom. I just, how far has the Democratic Party gone off the chart here?
Well, I think that if you go back to, I think I may have mentioned it one time. I did an interview back in the early 2000. I was working on my dissertation, and I was going to talk about the Senate, and I was going to talk about how the rule changes inside the very esoteric. So I called Paul Simon, who had been a 2-term Democrat, who had been a former journalist and became got involved in politics, and was one of the most incredible gentlemen to ever serve in the Senate. And I asked him, he said, you could have been reelected again without any problem in Illinois. And I said, why did you leave? And that he was running the Paul Simon Institute in Southern Illinois there. And he said, because the politics of the place had changed. So the gentleman and womanly aspects of the place, where you could sit down and talk to a person of the other party, you could go out to dinner, you could have drinks, and you could disagree on how to get things done, but you generally agreed on what had to be done. That is gone, and he said that is why I left the Senate, is because the comedy of the place had gone. And I thought, to me, thinking about Paul Simon, he was a Democrat.
Of course.
But he was a gentleman. He always distinctive in the fact he wore bow ties. That's what gave him a distinction.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so articulate and so gentle and so accommodating and so patient with me. And I thought it was, this was an incredible example of what has gone wrong with a lot of, because ideology now dictates what goes on. It's not about what's best for the country. It's about what's best for power.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the Democrats have taken us back 100 years in our social and cultural development. 100 years ago, it was a real bad thing to be a Catholic. I felt a lot of it growing up as a young kid. As a matter of fact, one of my good friends when I was a little boy, I knew his parents. The parents treated all of us kids in the neighborhood very well. They treated me kindly. I didn't know till years later that they hated Catholics, and they were of that time. But to their considerable credit, they did not try to pass that sort of thing along to their children, and they didn't. And they didn't. And that was the mantra of the World War II generation, that we're going to be better than the Europeans. Look what that sort of conflict, ethnic and religious conflict, just caused in Europe. And we're not going to pass that on to our children, who are, by the way, you and me. We're the age now. And that was a noble cause. And with the election of Donald Trump, the Democrats and the radicals around the party have taken us back to the ugly days. And this actually happened up in Burt, Iowa, 50 miles north. It's just a little town. They actually recruited Ku Klux Klan members to the area because there was another little town up in the northern part of the state called Bancroft that had the audacity to open a Catholic school. So that freaked out the Lutherans in Burt. And the next thing you know, they're asking for the Klan to come. That's how ugly it was in rural Iowa at the time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where these people who stay quiet while Portland burns, that's where they've taken us. I'm sorry, Sam, I'm lecturing. I beg your pardon.
No, you did great, and I think I couldn't have said it better. I think that where we are today, this is really, it is incredibly important that we have to stop this. And the way to stop it is to re-elect Donald Trump and put the Senate back in the hands of the Republicans. Because if we do not, this country is teetering on the edge of a precipice. And if we go over, there will be no coming back. Not ever.
I think that to be true. I hate to say it, Sam, but I wonder if we're past that already. I mean,
no, I don't think so. I think a friend of mine once said, Sam, we know how this ends. I mean, the good book tells us how it ends. And the good guys win. But on the way there, he said, on the way there, what our job is to keep putting time on the clock. So what we have to do is, our job is to slow this down and to put time back on the clock. And that's what I think we have to do.
All right. Sam Clovis has been our guest. Sorry about the shortened second segment here. I didn't the technical screw up in my end, I suppose. I don't know. I look forward to talking with you next Thursday. Thank you very much. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and Matt Bemrick, Mayor of Fort Dodge, is next. It's 4 o'clock. All right, we have Mayor Matt Bemrick with us here. He's been a busy guy, I guess. What have you been working today or what?
I've been very busy.
Really? You've actually been out in the field doing work, you're not sitting inside? Oh, man, that's a bummer. Did you work in town or?
Oh, yeah, I've been in town.
I talked with, wait a minute. I talked with Dr. Peter Fisher earlier today. And I've been covering this TIF story since Monday's city council meeting because nobody else will and nobody else has. So I thought perhaps the actual voters and taxpayers of Fort Dodge would like to know about it. Long story short, Dr. Peter Fisher gave us a brief history of TIF, and the way it started out was we need to use TIF on blighted areas. These are in underdeveloped neighborhoods. Now, he said that TIF, and I was unaware of this, started probably in the 1950s. It was a different name then, but it came out of the HUD development. Anyway, the point is, as it applies to Fort Dodge, is that it appears to sound to him and me that we're using TIF, the city is using TIF, and the idea behind using TIF is that we'll get a better tax base here in the country club area. Is that right?
No, that's not the only reason.
All right. Well, we'll discuss the other issues. But it appears we're using TIF to lighten the cost to developers. And in free market capitalism, if a developer wants to build a neighborhood, he goes to the bank, gets the money, risks the money, builds the development, and reaps some profits. I have no problem with anybody doing that.
Sure.
God love you. So you have a different story, I'm sure.
I do have a different opinion.
All right.
I really consider what I was going to say a story.
All right.
So if you can build it and it cash flows based on what the market will allow to sell it,
Yeah.
you should not use TIF.
Isn't that what we're doing?
No, the cost of the infrastructure creates a burden to the cost of development that therefore would make the price of the property too much in order to develop. So therefore, somebody that wanted a $250,000 house would have to pay $400,000 for it in order to cover all the infrastructure costs.
So
The market value is not there in order to repay the development costs.
all right.
So what the city does is we look at the pro forma. You build this many properties, this many lots are available. You put in this infrastructure, it costs X. If you got to sell all those and the market value is X, do those numbers match? If they do, then yeah, you don't need TIF. If they don't match, you most likely need TIF.
Doesn't that really mean the developer can't afford the project?
No, that means that there's no return on that project.
Yes, exactly. That's what I said. I was trying to imply.
You're okay with just not doing anything.
No, I did not say that.
Well,
You're messing with me again.
Using TIF is somehow subsidizing their profit. No, what we're doing is we're removing portion of the burden of that infrastructure that would be passed on to the consumer that would buy that house.
That's really a bureaucratic answer there, Matthew.
It's not. It's the right answer.
No, it isn't. Really. So
Okay, what's the right?
the right answer is in free market. I explained it to you just a moment ago. Free market capitalism. If a developer wants to develop,
we would not see any housing happen because you could not do it. You could not put in.
so the developer can't afford it.
No, it's not the developer that can't afford it. It's the market isn't there to put that housing.
That's another. Well, that's kind of along the same lines. If there is no market, why do it?
Because you're trying to recruit people. You're trying to improve your overall economy. So if you're trying to recruit a workforce and there's nowhere for them to live, and they're saying, well, there's nowhere for us to live, we need housing. So you help somebody put housing development together.
Yeah, but
You help by removing some of the burden of that infrastructure.
Matt, we're talking about the same thing here. You just don't
You're
see.
trying to make it.
I'm not trying to make it anything.
Yeah, you're trying to make it appear like somehow.
No, I'm not trying to make it appear.
Giant
Matt, you always want to
That's
do
what
that.
we're doing.
You always want to say I'm creating something out of thin air. I'm asking a question of a city official. A lot of taxpayers are asking in the city of Fort Dodge, who are referring to this project as Save the Country Club Golf Course Project. Come on, these are legitimate questions. I mean, The head of the HOA himself said this project would not go on without TIF.
Correct. It would.
Okay. Wait a minute. We got a
Because
phone.
the cost of that infrastructure is way too high to develop that.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. You're on the air with the mayor.
I've got an answer to Mayor's comments, and my answer to that is just lower property taxes. That's all.
Well, you got to remember, TIF is coming from the taxes being created, not from your existing taxes.
Well, and, you know, if we lowered our property taxes, we wouldn't even have to worry about where the taxes are coming from. But that's the property taxes in Fort Dodge just gone nuts again. And
The city rate on your taxes went down.
but I didn't see that.
Went down 25 cents per thousand.
Then why did my property taxes go up 25% overall?
Probably because your value might have went up, but the city doesn't set your value. We only set a rate.
Well, my property went up, but my house didn't. But this thing about getting new buyers of new homes, to build new homes, to recruit people to come to live here, tax breaks, and I can't get a tax break, and I'm just tired.
They're not getting a tax break. They're actually paying their taxes, and those taxes are being used to fund part of that infrastructure that's going in to serve those new lots.
Well, it seems like an awful lot of rigmarole for putting up new houses that nobody's out there in the market to buy.
Well, then they probably won't be able to. They won't put the development in. I mean, if you read the article, it said they were going to try to pre-sell the lots in order to develop it. They weren't going to use all this money to build all the infrastructure in hopes people would buy them. They were going to lay it out, sell the lots, then build the infrastructure. The people that will live there will pay their taxes and assessments on top of that to pay back the infrastructure cost. So the burden of the infrastructure cost is being paid by the people that will live there, not by other taxpayers.
Well, I guess I'm guilty of not reading the article and just listening to the program here this afternoon.
Well, this is where you got to be.
Oh, well, yeah. By God, Mike's the only one that knows.
That's right, I am.
Just ask him.
No, but you are obviously in a mode where you're trying to tell a better story here, and I'm just trying to get.
I'm telling a
hey,
story. I'm talking about facts.
I'm Jack
If you wanna tell
Webb.
a story, we can go to the library.
No,
Story time's on Tuesday
Hey,
night.
I'm Jack Webb here. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Do you have any other further questions, sir? I'm sorry, we didn't mean to. Thank you very much. All right.
No, so you got to remember, the people that are going to live there are going to pay the taxes that they pay on their property,
Yes.
and they're going to pay special assessments, and that's what's paying the burden of that infrastructure. It's not your taxes that are going to pay that burden. Now, once that infrastructure is paid for and that goes away, now we've got new taxable value to the rest of the city.
You know, if you wouldn't have jumped on me because you're all nervous and upset because you know I have a point of view here, a legitimate point of view, and you get nervous when I have a legitimate point of view. You get all freaked out. Oh my God. Anyway.
Again, that burden to the development couldn't be underwritten by the just typical develop, here's the lot, sell them, it paid for the burden of the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be figured a different way to amortize that burden. And we look at those performance and we say, okay, yeah, we get it. You can't develop this and put in that infrastructure and sell these lots because the lot and the house on it no one's ever going to do that. So using tax increment financing and things like special assessments allows that additional burden to be paid back by the people that will live there in order to create the development opportunity. Once that burden's paid, that development goes on the rest of the tax rolls, just like yours or mine.
I don't want to
The
sound.
benefit of our community.
I don't want to sound like a wise guy here, but is it safe to say we're using TIF to create a demand that does not exist?
How do you know there's not a demand?
Well, you keep saying there isn't. Matt, you keep it.
I said the burden's on them to go sell these lots now. On the developer now. The country club folks are going to get together. They're going to go out and market and try to sell these lots in advance.
But
then those people have to build those houses.
no group of people has approached anybody in our town to say, we're coming to your town if you do this project. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm
Demand.
talking specifically about the country club.
Yeah. That's where the whole TIF is.
If you talk to realtors, they'll tell you, okay, we have no more lots to sell that are wooded, are very few. There's a couple. I won't say there's none. There's a couple lots to be sold still that are in that price range.
Got a big lot right across the street from me, Mayor, in your neighborhood.
Where?
Big corner lot there where you knocked down.
Somebody's going to build a $600,000 house.
Ah, there it is. See?
Oh, okay. Now I'm a terrible person.
No, you're just
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. Go ahead. Berate me.
You're just
That's
a.
what you're trying to do today.
I'm not. I'm just.
Aha! I'm not the one building those houses.
See, the thing you do have to do is you go up 10th Street and across 7th Avenue. You see, that's a kind of an exclusive area up there. But somebody might build a house there. So you're getting all wound up about it. Now you want to wrestle me, and you're too old to wrestle me. That's probably true too. Anyway, now that we've got this out of the way, and you're wrong. Let's. What I really want to talk about was broadband. You got all nervous over that whole TIF thing. And
passionate about it because there's been a message being spread around this community that somehow this is a special project for rich people.
well, that's what media is supposed to be for. You know.
Spread gossip.
No, the message.
We're clear.
The messenger lit the fuse by not explaining anything. And they haven't followed up on this story at all. If you want a better explanation, if you want people to have a better understanding, come over here and talk to me. We may muddle through it and I may mangle a few things, but we'll have a better understanding if that's right. I have. It's been thoroughly covered by me, not them.
So this is a you versus the messenger issue?
This is an active member of the media trying to keep the citizens of our area informed. And by the way, we've done it. We have done it. All right, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. You're on the air with the mayor.
Hey, I don't really want to switch gears too bad here, but I noticed on the council agenda coming up for next Monday, there's going to be a thing for pumping. The golf course is going to be allowed to pump water up to their property. I was just curious if the mayor knew how much that would decrease water revenues that the city's collecting. Am I allowing them to do that?
It will slightly decrease water revenues, but you also have to remember we have all this water that will come off the new reverse osmosis system that we would have to pump all the way to the wastewater plant and run it through our wastewater system. Or we can pump it up the hill and let them use it for irrigation, save the cost that we would have borne to treat it, which you barely have to do anything to it, it's backwash. They use it to irrigate. We do lose some revenue in the water cost, but we gain in the treatment value. So it's a net win for both organizations.
Is it going to be a net positive for the city then?
It'll be a net positive for both organizations.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for your call.
That's a good question.
Yeah. See, if you wouldn't have come in here with such an attitude, I could have and let me finish. I would have told you. No. I tried to set it up for you, and immediately you turned into TIF man. No, Dr. Fisher said as time has gone on, and that's as far as you let me go before you pounced. Dr. Fisher said as time has gone on, the legal definition of what you can do under TIF has changed. Now cities seem to be TIFing practically everything. And this would be an example.
Housing, we started tipping with Williamston.
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
That was basically kind of the first video on it, using TIP to create housing.
Mm-hmm.
And that housing was targeted towards a workforce needed housing. That spurred other developers to come forward and say, hey, could we use it for some other things? There's been a couple of people that have come and brought ideas and they've not even gotten to the table because they're not possible. Or they could most likely do it without TIF.
Really, what I wanted to talk about today was broadband.
I'm probably not the best person. I love the project we're working on with broadband, but I'm probably not the subject matter expert to talk to.
Is Curtis Dean? I see.
Curtis definitely would be, and Ryan Mail. Brian
Oh
Gilbert
yeah,
City.
over the city. What is his position again?
He's kind of quasi assistant city manager.
That's right.
He has a lot of duties.
Yeah, that's
Middle of the department heads and
yeah. David Ferrick described him that way as well.
Yeah.
See, I hope you've learned a lesson today. Don't come in and jump on the talk show host. You're all cranky. Look at see, Ann, I'm so glad you're here because Matt is threatening me now. Yeah.
Don't blame you at all.
Ann Meyer's coming up next. Thank you, Matt. All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 4:30. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 4:35. Representative Ann Meyer is standing by. We'll talk with her in just a few minutes. First of all, the weather forecast, it's just been a great day all day. It's 84 degrees right now. It's hardly moved. And the humidity hasn't been bad. Boy, this is the day we live for around the upper Midwest, certainly. It's going to be more like August as we move forward into the weekend and next week. Overnight tonight, for example, there may be a thunderstorm with a low of 62. Tomorrow, some rain in the morning. Our high tomorrow will be 90. Saturday, some showers, nothing much. Sunny with a high of 90. On Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 90. Monday now, it's going to be 92 degrees. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 95. And 95 again on Wednesday. So more like August weather coming up. 84 degrees right now in Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Jonathan Geitz, Geits, Jonathan Geitz, 29 years old, of the Fort Dodge area, died on Sunday, August 16th in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Jonathan Geitz, 29 years old of Fort Dodge, has died in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Ann Meyer coming up in about 90 seconds. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
That AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the doctor of truth. I don't have a doctor in the room with me, but she's married to one. That's Ann Meyer, of course, Representative Ann Meyer. How are you, Ann?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I know you're always doing well. That's for sure. You know,
I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor, but I am a nurse. So, there's that.
So-
Healthcare is just not being married to a doctor.
well, didn't I introduce you as a nurse? I know I said you were married to a doctor.
You're not. I don't have a doctor in the room with me, but
I blew right over that. I beg your pardon. I must be a sexist. Trying to strip a woman of her identity. I know. It's
just something that always makes me laugh. And I'll never forget one time I was in the grocery store and one of the gals here was talking to me about her shoulder surgery, and she was telling me how it was done, and she said, "Oh, Ann, I don't need to tell you all. I don't need to explain this to you. You're a doctor's wife." I said, "Yeah, and I'm also a nurse, so I kind of get it that way."
I kind of understand. I got it under control here. So, yeah, it struck me a week or so ago, watching some of the nonsense that leftists are up to in our country, some of the terrible things they're doing and saying. that when it came to our local race for House of Representatives, the Democratic Party is going to have an awfully tough time portraying you as an uncaring Republican, because you are obviously a very compassionate human being, and I know Jim is too.
Yeah.
And that is to your considerable credit. I'm sure that people seeing that is the reason you were the winner in during our last election cycle. You have worked tirelessly in the field of medicine and public health since you've been down in Des Moines these last 2 years, and I know you've seen some results from your efforts.
Yes.
So before we talk about that and why you should be reelected, let's talk a little bit about Iowa Public Health, the Iowa Department of Public Health.
Yep.
What can you tell us anything that's going on there in the time of COVID, or where are we at?
Well, absolutely. You know, there's been some reports in the messenger in the past few days, actually since last week, that our positivity rate in Webster County was high. It was 22, 23%. And that really was going to prevent schools from opening. And rightly so. I mean, if our community spread is that big, we want to make sure that our kids are safe. You know, this is a pandemic. Our infrastructure in Iowa Department of Public Health is dated. We know that. We've been addressing it in the past 2 years. It's going to take some cash to update that infrastructure. And Governor Reynolds did talk about that today. She is going to devote some care monies just to update the IT system.
I didn't see she had a press conference today. I didn't get to watch it.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah. I always try to watch them if I have the availability. So she did mention devoting some of the CARES money specifically to that, because it is a public health issue. It is related to the pandemic. I mean, we need to have accurate reporting from every county, and they need to get it counted and up in their website, so communities can work from those results, especially our school systems, our school districts. So there was an issue about some of the tests were not inputted to Iowa Department of Public Health in a timely fashion, because the results were being faxed down there, which, you know, they were doing it correctly in the community. It's just that they only had one person down there accepting the faxes and inputting those negative results. Positive results were inputted immediately because we want to start contact tracing right away to make sure everyone's safe. So, but the negatives, there was a little lag in that, and that affected our positivity rates in Webster County. So now we're back down to an acceptable level where I know I talked to Jesse Ulrich, I guess it was earlier this week, and he's been working with Webster County Public Health, and they have a plan for the kids to get back to school next week. So school starting next week. Initially, as you probably are aware, it was pushed out 2 weeks because of the high positivity rate. But once they reconciled those numbers correctly, they decided it would be safe for the kids to return. And that's the thing. That's why those numbers have to be accurate through Iowa Department of Public Health. I did have a long discussion with Amy McCoy down in Public Health today, and we went over, you know, what had transpired in Webster and how it's being rectified, and we are assured that the reporting is going to be timely and accurate now from IDPH. So that will give us up-to-date numbers every day. We'll know our positivity rate, and we'll be able to make sure our kids are safe in school. And that's really what everyone wants. You know, I know that I swear to you, if I could get off Twitter and Facebook completely, I would, because there's nothing but hate out there.
There really is.
All I want to do is see your family vacation pictures and pictures of your kids.
I
and
put
your
my grandkids
pets.
on there all the
I
time.
love those. But I am so tired of the hate that is spewed constantly whenever, either side is out there talking. It's so disheartening. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Every single person wants to make sure our kids can get back to school and it can be in a safe manner.
I know this is your time, not your opponent, Charles Clayton, but I will just add along the lines of what you were talking about on Charles' social media post, Facebook yesterday. He posted a meme about needing God in the home and in school. Several people, not several, but two certainly very strongly, and others took him to task for saying something that was not on the Democratic platform. Now, remember what was said. We just need God in the classroom and God in school. And one guy from Cedar Rapids, who's an activist, I even know him, really said, how can you call yourself a Democrat? That's who these people are. I mean, I'm astounded. I mean,
can you imagine why would anyone say anything negative about that?
That's exactly right. How could you do that in a town where we have 6 Lutheran churches, where we have a very large active Catholic congregation? I've said this before. A couple of Methodist churches. We have a big Baptist church right over there.
We have a great Presbyterian church.
Great. I wasn't going to forget about it. But of course, we have a very active church at Second Baptist here in Washington.
Absolutely.
And they're a very strong Christian congregation. And
why?
And these people are saying,
when you're saying something positive, why do people have to knock you down constantly? I'm so tired of the hate that's out there. It's so disheartening. I for certain need to stay off of that right before I'm trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. I think it affects you. People out there know that I'm a beast on social media, but I'm in the attack mode.
You attack everybody though. You're not one side or the other. And
well, I try to be. I can't deny who I am. I'm a man raised in the Catholic Church. I'm an older man, and this isn't the world that I grew up in or even was a young man in. It's vastly different, and that's just it. I mean, you must speak truth to power. That's what the Quakers used to say, speak truth to power. So I try to do that. Matt Bemmer gets a little touchy when I do that.
Yeah, I was in the hallway during your conversation. It was it was quite loud.
Matt, I've been a Bemrick supporter. Since he was
city council.
I didn't know him well enough when he was council at large, but I got to know him as soon as he got to be mayor. In fact, the first conversation we had was a big argument. So but Matt comes from a great family, and he's a very bright guy, and he's a great mayor.
And you know what? Everyone doesn't have to agree, but everyone doesn't have to hatefully express their opinions. And you two, when you do disagree, I don't think it's hateful. It's just a robust exchange of ideas.
Matt Bemrick's my friend.
Yeah.
God, if you, I don't know how it is you were with your friends, but every now and then I have a disagreement with them.
Sure we do. Yeah.
So, Ann Meyer's our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. If you're reelected, what would you like to do? What would be the next phase of your career as a legislature?
Well, again, I want to go back and get the a few bills that got to the floor but didn't get across the rotunda through the Senate. I would like to get that done. So first and foremost, we have some child care bills that I was working on. We need to increase provider rates. People who are taking care of your kids need to make more than people that are working in gas stations. And the same thing with direct care workers. People who are taking care of your mom and your grandma need to make more than they're making in gas stations.
My wife, who passed away in 1998, she started doing a little babysitting every now and then because our son was very young. And I frankly, I didn't want her to go on dropping our son off at a babysitter. And about a year, and she was wonderful at it. She came from a family of 12 and she was number 4. So she was used to looking after kids. But she began to complain to me a little bit. I said, I'm just babysitting. And sometimes the other women look at me like I'm not doing anything with my life. And fortunately, around that time, and I used to tell her, God, what job is more important than taking after some person's kid? You got a woman at work or something?
Mhm.
I mean, she wants to think to herself that her child is safe and well looked after. Shortly after that, a group was formed here in town. I don't know if it's still active, that began to promote themselves as an association of daycare providers.
Mhm.
And they insisted that they be looked at as professional daycare providers, which I thought was a great idea.
Mhm.
If we can get off this babysitter thing, which is something high school girls did, we're in a whole different world now, and start referring to daycare providers accurately as professional people,
Mhm.
we're going to be a lot better off. And we'll have some great daycare in our town.
We have, so we introduced some legislation that, number one, increase the provider rates for people who accept child care assistance. We introduced a bill that passed the House floor to address the child care assistance cliff. So when someone gets a small raise, if someone's not making less than 185%, which is now governor pushed it out to 225% of federal poverty level, if that person gets a raise that pushes her right over that, that mom, and usually that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a basic size family as a mom and two or three kids. They're pushed off of that just by making a few extra dollars. They may get a few extra dollars in their check, but they lose on average $1,500 a month.
Sure.
In child care benefits. So we want people to do better.
Sure, of course we do. Let's go to the phones real quick. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. You're on the air.
Yes, I just wanted to say kudos to Ann Meyer, and she's spot on the child care providers should make more than people pump at the gas station. We don't do enough for our child care providers. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in.
All right, thank you so much. All right, bye-bye. I guess she was speaking to you, and I thanked her for you. But
well, and I thank her too, because hopefully she's still listening. Thank you. But really, so childcare is important for people, for people who are sending their kids to childcare. But the businesses, when we're trying to attract talent to Fort Dodge, let's say we're trying to attract, let's say, physicians, nurse practitioners, people out at CJ. If their families are not here and they don't have childcare to take care of their kids, and they have to be on a waiting list for a year, we lose that talent, because no one's going to move to a town and they don't have any place to take their kids for childcare and go to work.
Okay.
Childcare is a workforce issue in Iowa. It is. We need people working, and we need people to take care of children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I definitely want to go back and address next time. I will just tell you a little anecdote. We moved recently, and about 6 weeks ago, and I had gotten on the DOT website and updated my address. Jim updated his address, and Jake updated his address. So we still haven't received new driver's license. I'm kind of worried about that, because I want to make sure that our addresses match, our identification, everything matches. So I talked to the liaison today from the DOT, who I'd been working with closely last session about the adult changing tables. Mm-hmm. And her husband is in construction.
Right.
And so she's looking into this issue for me to see if we're going to be issued new licenses. But she also said, I wanted to let you know that my husband's working on the new rest stop out in Tipton. And he was asking me about adult changing tables because the DOT requested one there.
I was going to say, I thought those were required in public areas.
They're not required. That was
Really?
That was the legislation we put in. I introduced from a constituent this year. So it went just through the House. I can't tell you how proud I was of this bill because it passed the House 100-0.
That's great.
I have never passed a bill 100-0 ever. Because there's always someone who's a sticker on it. And anyway, just to hear that even though it didn't get through the Senate because of darn COVID, the DOT, after doing that research, they requested for an adult changing table to be put in that rest stop. And so I'm so excited.
Good for you. The year 2020, you have to have them. Younger men accept that responsibility. Of course.
Not an adult for the bigger kids. So this is a table. Yeah, we've got the kangaroo tables. Those are law.
Okay. Those are.
We've got for the babies to be changed.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a really good thing for parents if you've ever had a dirty diaper in Target, I'm assuming. But there are people with disabled children that are older children, 6, 7, 8, 20. I mean, that have to be laid on the floor of a public restroom on a blanket to be changed because they're not going to be potty trained from a disability or whatever reason. And this is just, we were introducing a pilot
This is
program.
what you're talking about then.
Yes,
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about. So an adult changing table, because of darn COVID, the rest stop's kind of on hold right now. It's in the middle of its progress, but they are going to be it sounds like they're going to be installing one in Tifton.
That's
and DOT requested it based on the research that we did.
I'm fine with that. There were a number of years ago, and I didn't appreciate this because I'm 6'2", but they all built the urinals in men's room a certain height, and I was fine with it. But some of the shorter guys, even when I was in there with them, would go, "What is this? Am I supposed to wash my hands in this or what?" So finally, almost all adult male restrooms have taller urinals or smaller. And the one I go to the most is at the Grundy Center truck stop because I stop there on the way over to Cedar Rapids to see my son. And they've got all of them lower, which doesn't bother me a bit, Yeah. I mean, it's the urinals are down around my knees, which I'm a little uncomfortable with sometimes.
You just have to have really good aim.
I've had a lot of experience, and control. I'll have to say that. But anyway, Ann Meyer is our guest. She's running for re-election as state representative as a Republican. Do you feel strongly that you're a Republican? I mean, are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So you agree with the Republican Party platform?
Yes, I do. And
Okay.
I am, I'm a fiscal conservative. And yes, I definitely support the Republican Party platform. And unashamedly, I'm not going to,
Why would you be ashamed? Why?
Well, people say, "Oh, but I don't
You got to
really
get
agree
off
with
social
this."
media, girl.
I know. That's what because I read too much crap.
Yes. Well, and by the way, you mentioned that when we started our conversation today. So now you're going to have a whole load of new weirdos attacking you, and they're, social media. I had great hopes for social media for decorum and a place for a huge discussion for the entire country, and it just went down the tubes.
I like to use social media to let people know what's going on.
Sure.
What we're doing down
That's
there,
fine.
what I'm doing here in town. That's what I want to use it for.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are people, elected officials that use it to bash the other party constantly. And I that just makes me sick.
Well, that's, really, I think there's going to be a backlash against the Democrats for doing that.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, there's that group out there that have decided to not control themselves or whatever I'm trying to say and let the lizard part of their brain be exposed. And I don't need it exposed. And I think it's going to backfire on them. Ann Meyer, by the way, will be here in 2 weeks at the same time.
Yep.
Charles Clayton will be here next week at 4:30, and we'll keep that rotation until the election. And we may talk with Ann and Charles other times in between. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks.
This is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.